Most of us could only dream of being around our favorite celebs, but for their staff and assistants, our favorite celebs are actually their biggest nightmares.
It's like, you don't know what you're talking about, I know what I'm talking about.
Naomi Campbell. I'm gonna be honest here, this one even surprised me a little bit, but it's true. As talented and adored as the British model may be, she's got a side of her that's not so pretty. Naomi settled in a court case involving her and her housekeeper. Allegedly, Naomi physically harmed her housekeeper when she wasn't able to find her favorite Stella McCartney jeans and even threw her phone at her. And she's been known to hurl a few less than friendly comments at airport staff.
I do not want to comment.
Why?
We can't necessarily discredit all that Naomi's accomplished, as she's still one of the most well-known models of all time, but her reputation for physical harm to her staff, as well as the slick comments she's made about the people who work for her, speaks volumes.
No, it was called the icon party, but there were no icons there.
Jennifer Lopez. We all love a good J-Lo performance. She's dynamic on stage, and the woman knows how to put on a show. Beyond her singing career, she's even made quite the name for herself in Hollywood as an actress, and we're totally here for that. What we're not so much here for is bullying, and that's also something that she let her manager, Benny Medina, partake in. Medina would often make rude comments to J-Lo's driver at the time, Jacob Manoukian, while she allowed it to happen. Eventually, Manoukian resigned, but that's not the end of it.
You know, I feel like that was such a long time ago.
She's also known for restricting the staff working in her home from even looking at her or making eye contact with her. According to assistants that J-Lo has had, her requirements include being on call 24/7 and having food ready for her, even if she doesn't say when she's hungry.
Why? Like, so we can eat and stuff, you know?
Lady Gaga. Who would have thought that the same woman who brought us some of the best singles of our generation would also have pretty concerning requirements for her staff? We may not have thought it, but her former assistant, Jennifer O'Neill, certainly did. Jennifer took Gaga to court over accusations that she was owed nearly $380,000 for over 7,000 hours of unpaid overtime. You heard that number right. Jennifer claimed that she barely had time for breaks or even to sleep, as she was on call 24 hours a day, catering to an array of Gaga's needs.
Something inside of you is always scarred by those experiences.
And for her troubles, she was only compensated $75,000 for the entire year. And while Gaga's team denied the allegations, it didn't do much after another one of her former assistants came forward about having to sleep in the same bed with and even shower with Gaga because she didn't want to be alone. Here's to hoping things have calmed down for Gaga now.
That's what we wanted you to see.
Angelina Jolie. We love seeing her on film, but we may not love working with her behind the scenes. As odd as it may seem to some people, Miss Angelina has a side of her that you definitely shouldn't test.
Oh dear.
According to her former bodyguard, she had the tendency to be more than a control freak. Apparently, the talented beauty isn't new to giving silent treatments to her staff when she's displeased as a form of punishment. A little premature for a lot of our tastes, but okay. While she makes most of her employees sign confidentiality agreements, according to Hollywood gossip, Angelina tends to be unmoved by emotions and can switch moods in an instant. A lot of us may have experienced working under employers who lack empathy, and it usually isn't a great environment. So let's just say it's probably not all rainbows and butterflies for her staff. Anna Wintour. Honestly, it almost hurts to talk about this, seeing as how Anna Wintour has put on some of the most extravagant events we've ever seen. I mean, I'm basically talking about the annual Met Gala, but her accomplishments extend far past that. Unfortunately, her reputation for being a bit difficult to please also extends that. We all know the iconic film The Devil Wears Prada. The film was based on a book written by an author named Lauren Weisberger, who coincidentally worked for Anna Wintour in the early days of her career. Meryl Streep's character heavily resembles characteristics of Anna herself. There isn't a ton that's been said about how Anna treated her employees, but the author noted that the events of the book were inspired by events that were real and made up. Luckily, Anna didn't view the film negatively, but there's also a reason she's known as Nuclear Winter.
I love this job because I love to laugh.
Ellen DeGeneres. She gave us a lifetime of laughs on her show, especially in her early years. She's accumulated numerous awards for her show and her achievements, but in recent years, guests on her show as well as members of her staff have been coming forward to talk about their toxic experiences while working for Ellen. Long story short, it is not pretty. Influencers like Nikki Tutorials came forward about being mistreated while on set. She wasn't even allowed to use the bathroom while she was there. And it's not just asking evasive questions or mistreating guests. Her employees were drastically overworked, and some even had to turn to GoFundMe to cover medical expenses that weren't covered with the health insurance Ellen provided.
Well, I think we know who's nicer, but anyway, the point is we're both nice.
Rihanna. Okay, so we already know Rihanna takes the cake when it comes to sass and attitude, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing. She's worked hard to get where she is, and no one can negate that. And for the most part, she seems to genuinely care for her fans. Her staff, however, well, it's a little more complicated. We can probably imagine that it's not easy being Rihanna. As someone who's had a music career, a clothing brand, a beauty line, among other things, her work probably gets extensive. But it's also no excuse for rudeness, which is unfortunately something she's been known to be when it comes to her staff. One staff member even spoke to a tabloid about how, aside from her endless list of demands, she flipped out on an employee for bringing Rihanna food that had gotten cold after having to drive miles to get it for her.
Now you're asking my personal business.
You know I am, sis.
Miley Cyrus. Some people love her, some people love to hate her, but at the end of the day, Miley Cyrus will always be here to stay. And we're not even gonna lie, she totally seems like that celebrity that you really want to hang out with at least once, just to get to know them better. She seems warm and welcoming, but if we've learned anything from this video so far, it's that looks can be deceiving. Luckily in Miley's case, you won't see her underpaying her employees or chucking cell phones at them, but you will see her completely neglect house training her pets, one of which is a literal pig, and yelling at her staff to clean up their messes. We're sure Miley is still a cool person, but we won't necessarily be sending in applications to work for her. Madonna. Madonna gave us Vogue and countless hits throughout her career and has inspired so many people. So can she really be that bad?
Hey, guess what, Lady Gaga? I'm taller than you.
The short answer, yes. Because literally everyone has a tendency to be not so pleasant at times. But then there's Madonna and the complaints that her staff has had about working for her. Designers like Giorgio Armani have claimed that she's been difficult to work with, and former dancers have even sued her for withholding payments from them. I mean, yeah, it'd probably feel awful to work for someone as successful as Madonna and still not get paid.
I did, I'm sorry.
Her assistants were on call 24/7, leading some of them to quit, and her chauffeur even had to leave after not being allowed to have adequate breaks. The roller coaster that seems to be working under Madonna is one that most of us would not like to jump on. Kendall Jenner. A lot of us have literally watched Kendall grow up in front of our eyes. Well, we at least watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians and have seen the life that she's lived. Saying that Kendall is privileged would be an understatement, but luckily, she's done a decent job of staying grounded and down to earth, even with all the resources and access she's been granted. Or so we thought. A server at a restaurant she was attending refused to serve her alcohol because she was underage at the time. Kendall's response? Simply storming out of the restaurant without paying the bill.
Kendall, where are you going? Where are you going? Come here.
The server ran out to speak to Kendall and request that she pay her dues, prompting Kendall to throw cash at his face. It really gave early season Scott Disick vibes, if you ask me.
It sucks. It really sucks.
We may not be able to see it at first, but there's apparently a dark side to Hollywood. Well, at least for those who work for Tinseltown's elite. Which celebrity horror story were you most surprised by? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to like this video and subscribe to The Thing Celebrity for more on your favorite celebs.